Welcome to the Magifest audio blog, episode 4, New Ideas, New Directions. As we forge ahead into midsummer, we are reminded of the life cycle of Earth. Flowers are reaching up towards the heavens, fireflies dance, and life is morphing all around us. We have endured the winters of mind and body. Once we have taken the time to be more self-aware and self-loving, we can begin to walk down a path to our desires and goals. When we have the openness to new concepts, we watch little seeds of ideas develop to large systems or more complex patterns. Each time we accept a new place in our minds for something, the room gets bigger and we find ourselves in a playful place, a place that we only went to as a child. 2019 is not the time to be afraid of anything. It's a bold statement but bears consideration given that it is usually our fears which blind us from our desires. Fear blinds us well, leaving us exhausted, frustrated, and resentful. Fear, which is love's opponent in the never-ending cyclical game of life. We may fall into moments of doubt. Fear may always throw daggers at us, but we are movable beings who possess the ability to dodge and dance around those daggers. The wonderful thing about today is we have the knowledge and potential to create beautiful lives, beautiful communities, and outstanding systems. So why isn't that always happening? I think to consider this, we need to be aware of the ideas and conditioning that have been set forth by our own people. This includes the entire human collective. Yes, we as a human collective have much more in common than we think. Many of us love change from afar as if it were something unattainable. Its distance, or rather the illusion of it, is what convinces us to not pursue it. However, it is when we question this distance that things begin to take shape. I've noticed in my own personal accounts that when I questioned something fear had created, for example, once fear told me that there was no use in trying to write music. I didn't even know where to begin, so why bother? Fear was like a nagging mother whose berating tore me down with each dull ache of its voice. You don't know what you're doing. It's not your thing. You're the singer. While there was some truth to this statement, it wasn't the whole truth. It wasn't until I challenged this voice by replying to fear, "Sure, this may be true now, but it's not true forever." We tend to think of truths as being solid and unchangeable, as if one thing that's true will always be true. I suppose there are certain truths which are constant. Even these truths, which appear to be very stable, could actually be different if considered outside our human conscious experience. For example, we as humans have a particular way of perceiving time. I've always wondered how plants and animals perceive time and how it's different from our perception of it. How can we open the doors of perception if we are unaware of the doors themselves? Moving outside the comfort zone. There is something both frightening and beautiful about challenging ourselves. What's frightening to most of us is the unknown, the idea that we may not succeed, that we may be dissatisfied with our efforts. Change looks great as long as nothing's actually changing. This paradox keeps us closed up and limited. We never get to our destination because we're stuck on the first floor and our gate is on the second floor. Should we abandon ourselves when the stubbornness of ego is stamping its foot and throwing a tantrum? Absolutely not. We can let our ego say what it needs to say, but as we might with a tantrum-throwing 2-year-old, we can acknowledge it and proceed in the direction of our dreams. Once we cross that threshold, we can continue on our path of actualizing ourselves and our true potential as dynamic human beings. It all sounds like moving spaces on a Monopoly board. Pass, go, collect $200. The funny thing is, it's not far from it. Sometimes all you need to do is roll the dice and move. I found myself many times stuck by my own thoughts and egoistic notions of dramatic failure. I think we all find ourselves at this place now and then, and this is completely okay. We might have to roll the dice a few times, keep going, keep moving. We might lose everything. We might lose nothing. We might gain something. We might gain everything. We might, if we move. I remind myself to remind myself that I just don't know. I don't know what's possible until it becomes so. I don't know how important anything is. I find out over time. Living with this belief has allowed my life to take surprising turns. It's allowed me to free myself of the burdens of great expectations. We are all moving under the sun, stars, and galaxies. We breathe the same air, yet have such peculiar tastes and passions. We all have unwritten histories to live out. The only way to feel alive is to live. Living, unfortunately, includes risk-taking, curiosity, gain, and loss. That's why it's important that we all break down the myth of perfection and high achievement. It's wonderful to achieve, but what relevance does it have with the rest of our natural world? What relevance does it have with the achievements of galaxies beyond ours? Sometimes doing within a sphere of mono-intelligence where people are operating under the same system of consciousness produces limited results. In other words, we spend our lives busy with living the lives that society has carved out for us without truly taking the time to question the shape of our lives independent of our societal role. So it behooves us to look into space, to look outside our boundaries, with not expectations, but a hunger for experience. When you expect nothing of something, you may get everything. Thank you so much for listening to MagiFest Audio Blog Episode 4. For more audio blogs, podcasts, and music, check out my website at www.mirandamusic.space. See you next time. So take the power, you have the power. You take the power, just use it wisely. Take the power, you got the power. Just take the power, just use it wisely.